Over the past 5 years, the New Orleans Saints have been the second most winningest franchise after the Kansas City Chiefs and have been accustomed to being a perennial Super Bowl contender for the most part. They've enjoyed so much success with their franchise savior in Drew Brees for 14 years, and yes, he did bring them a Super Bowl, but to be honest, I feel like they have underachieved, especially in the latter years. They have come up short in egregious fashion over the years. In 2017, the Minneapolis Miracle took place in the divisional round that year. In 2018, the egregious pass interference no call against the Rams. In 2019, the overtime loss to the inferior Vikings, and the list goes on. In 2020, Drew Brees had retired and Sean Payton left in 2021, so it will be a whole new era for the New Orleans Saints moving forward. The question is, how successful will the Saints be in this new era? Before we tackle this topic, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe as we're on our way to 1,000 subscribers, so any type of engagement right now would help me out so much here. But without further ado, enough of me talking, let's get into this video. Now let's talk about why I believe the New Orleans Saints are the biggest sleeper team of this upcoming NFL season in 2022. First off, let's start off with what's new. Dennis Allen is the new head coach of the Saints, but he's definitely not new to the organization. He's been on staff as a defensive coordinator since 2015, and when much of the talk and focus on the Saints over the years has been about the offense, the defense has been steadily working their way up to being one of the best in the league. In 2014, the year before Allen arrived, the Saints had the 28th ranked defense in points per game and 31st in yards surrendered. In 2015, Allen was on the Saints staff, but wasn't the defensive coordinator as that title belonged to Rob Ryan, who sinks them to being the worst defense in the NFL that year in points given up and 31st in yards given up. He was fired and then Allen had took over as coordinator. After his first full season as DC, the Saints ranked in the top half of the league defensively, including them being ranked in the top 5 in the past 2 seasons. Long story short, I expect him to continue to boast a top 5, top 10 defense in the league because he's been there, so he's familiar with the players who've been there, the system, etc. He also has 2 co-defensive coordinators that have been on staff as well. With Sean Payton being out means a new head coach as well as a new play caller, as Pete Carmichael will be calling the plays this season. He's been with the Saints since they've won the Super Bowl back in 2009, but we rarely ever hear his name because Sean Payton was the guy we looked at because he was the primary play caller. But Carmichael is just as responsible for the Saints being in the top 9 best offenses every single year since he's been there. He knows the system and most of the players that have been there for years, so the familiarity will help smooth out the minor transition. Speaking of transition, let's talk about the actual players now. We're already talking offense, so why not stay there? I believe what makes the Saints so underrated is the fact that Jameis Winston is in the right system in order for him to succeed. No slight to the great offensive mind in Bruce Arians, but his no risk it, no biscuit approach to the passing game was not a good combination for Winston, who is already at times a bad decision maker with the ball. In Arians' first year with Andrew Luck threw 18 interceptions, a career high. In his first year with Carson Palmer, he threw 22 interceptions, a career high. With Tom freaking Brady, he threw 12 interceptions, not one season, but 2 seasons. The highest interception count Brady had thrown in 9 years. So his system is not ideal for a guy like Jameis, considering even star quarterbacks have struggled at times under him as well. With the Saints system, they do sling the ball as well, but in a more protective way. As Drew Brees aged, we all know he couldn't throw the ball as far as he used to, and he never really had a super strong arm. From what we've already seen with Jameis Winston in the system, he's been very efficient and cautious with the football while still being able to make explosive plays when he can. While he did record his lowest yards per game average last season, he did record 12 yards per completion, which is pretty much on average for his career. Also with that, he was on pace to throw less than 10 interceptions for the first time in his career before he got hurt, of course. With Winston, he has a very strong arm, and he will have to hone that in a little bit just because that's where many of his mistakes comes from. He feels like he can make every single throw using the same touch. But with him being in a system where the Saints do a lot of dump off passes and work the middle of the field with Alvin Kamara, it will bode very well for him. He also will be getting all-pro receiver Michael Thomas back and fully healthy, and hopefully he is healthy and buys in so he can build that chemistry with Winston. Along with Thomas, they added Jarvis Landry and rookie Chris Olave, who is expected to make an instant impact on the team. However, I am concerned because word is that Alvin Kamara will be suspended about 6 games for off-the-field issues, and that obviously is going to take a toll on the offense. But luckily, they acquired Mark Ingram back, so he can possibly do a good job in that replacement role until Kamara is able to return. So last year, for the most part, they were without Winston, Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave, Mark Ingram for half the year, and they were still 1 game out from making the playoffs. In the games Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill started at quarterback, they were a combined 9-3, while Trevor Siemian went 0-4 and Ian Book at 0-1. If Hill or Winston was available for just a couple more games, they would have been a lock for the playoffs. Why did they even have a shot to make the playoffs? Well, the defense was absolutely elite last year as they ranked 4th in points given up and 7th in yards given up, and they had the best rushing defense in the league. The only downside I can think of is that out of the top 14 leading rushers in the NFL in 2021, they only played 3 of them, excluding their own guy, Alvin Kamara, of course. They're a defense that were led by their defensive front, especially Cam Jordan. Those guys would definitely be the focal point again, and with much of the same guys returning, I expect similar results to last year. Their sack leader in 2020 was Trey Hendrickson, who had 13.5 sacks, double the amount of the next closest player. He left for the Bengals in 2021, and it didn't matter. The Saints ended up with 1 more sack as a team in 2021 than they did in 2020 with Trey Hendrickson. Their secondary is also a strong suit, making them an overall great defense. They only gave up 20 passing touchdowns last year and picked off the ball 18 times. Mainly, the same secondary will be returning outside of Marcus Williams. Marshawn Lattimore is one of the best corners in the game at the moment. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, P.J. Williams, Bradley Roby have all been there and are very solid. And oh look, they're bringing in one of the best safeties of this generation in Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. How much does he have left? I guess we'll wait and see. So they're pretty much returning the same roster with a couple huge additions here and there. Dennis Allen will no doubt keep the defensive identity intact, especially with his co-defensive coordinators being in the organization as well, so there's no familiarity barrier, so to speak, when it comes to the defensive coach and the head coach. I expect them to remain a top 5, top 10 defense this season, and if they can get that, this team is very dangerous. Again, they're a 1 game out of the playoff race with all those guys on offense not being there last year. If those guys can be healthy, they will be abundantly better than what they put on the field last year. With the additions of Landry, Olave, Thomas, they could be a top 10 offense as well. Not to mention Deontay Harris and Tre'Quan Smith and Marquez Callaway getting a lot of run last year. That's really going to help them out. You know, their roles are probably going to be diminished, but in the snaps that they do get, hopefully they can succeed as well. Taysom Hill is going to be moved back to tight end for the most part, so he's really going to focus on obviously catching the ball, blocking, and maybe being an emergency quarterback. With them also being in a weak division, I expect them to no doubt be in the playoff picture and maybe, just maybe, win the division. I wouldn't be surprised. There's no telling how the Bucs will bounce back after an injury-riddled season last year. And for as much praise as we give Tom Brady regarding his longevity, and deservedly so, he is approaching 45 years of age very quickly, and eventually he will succumb to Father Time. Maybe this is the year. But other than that, y'all let me know how y'all think the Saints will do in this upcoming season. It's crazy how they are so slept on in this offseason. I saw a post by, I think it was CBS Sports, where they were ranked as the 22nd or 23rd best roster in the league, and that blew my mind. They're definitely better than some of the teams they put ahead of them, but the Saints will show y'all in just a couple months. But other than that, drop your record prediction for the team down below. Do you see them winning the division? Are they a legit Super Bowl threat? Let me know. But this is Jimmy from Just the Facts, and I'm signing out. Peace.